Welcome to this special edition of Hannity, The Trump Effect. I'm Jason Chaffetz, in tonight for Sean. For the hour, we'll highlight why elections matter. Since the president's inauguration in January 2017, the Trump effect has been in full swing. The economy is booming. The media has been called out for its abusive bias. And deep state corruption has been exposed at some of the highest levels in our federal bureaucracy. And last night, President Trump called on the Department of Justice to confront that deep state corruption head on. Take a look.
Our Justice Department and our FBI at the top of each, because inside they have incredible people. But our Justice Department and our FBI have to start doing their job and doing it right and doing it now. Because people are angry. People are angry. What's happening is a disgrace. And at some point, I wanted to stay out, but at some point, if it doesn't straighten out properly, I want them to do their job. I will get involved, and I'll get in there if I have to.
This week, we learned even more details surrounding a brewing scandal we've been discussing for months, all surrounding the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA for short. Judicial Watch now has uncovered that no FISA court hearings, none, took place on the warrants obtained by the FBI on former Trump campaign associate Carter Page. Of course, we know the basis for that warrant was Christopher Steele's dirty dossier. And yesterday, Catherine Herridge reported that current Mueller deputy Andrew Weissman was kept in the loop about Steele's dossier. Joining us now to break all this down is author of The Russia Hoax, the illicit scheme to clear Hillary Clinton and frame Donald Trump, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, and Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton. Thank you both for being here. Greg, congratulations on the book. I think it's been New York Times best-selling list 3 weeks in a row?
3 weeks in a row.
Oh, that's got to drive them crazy. It's got to drive them nuts. Tom, I want to start from you. You've done some amazing work. I'm a huge fan of what Judicial Watch has done. Without you, we wouldn't learn a lot of these things. But explain to us in this court filing what you were able to uncover.
So court transcripts about Carter Page and General Flynn. They wouldn't tell us one way or another whether there was even a FISA warrant on Flynn. Carter Page, they did admit that it had taken place. They gave us the FISA applications. We said, what about the transcripts? They initially said there were no transcripts, and then in an effort to dismiss the case, they filed something last night saying, we asked the Office of Intelligence in within the Justice Department. They told us there was never any court hearing on any of the Carter Page warrants. There was the initial warrant and then 3 subsequent renewals. And to me, it's astonishing and disturbing that these courts couldn't bother to hold hearings on spy warrants targeting Donald Trump. When you look at these applications, it isn't about Carter Page. It's about the Trump campaign. It's about candidate number 1, President Trump. 3 of those warrants were filed while he was either going to be president or when he was president. And these courts that are supposed to provide oversight of the secret spy process refused to do so. And of course, they were gamed by relying on the Justice Department and the FBI. So you've got the courts falling asleep at the wheel here. And of course, you got the underlying corruption of the DOJ and FBI. And the leadership of the Justice Department and FBI are completely out to lunch in terms of highlighting and exposing and holding those accountable responsible for that corruption. So,
Greg, what do you glean from this and the fact that there was no hearing? I mean, it's a one-way court as it is.
Right. It's an ex-party proceeding, which means there's only one side, the government side. And there's nobody there to protect the civil liberties and the privacy rights that are being intruded upon by the federal government. These judges, without hearing, without asking a single solitary question, simply accepted as truthful the representations of people like James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Rod Rosenstein, Sally Yates. And now we know they weren't telling the truth. They were deliberately misrepresenting the facts. They were concealing vital evidence, deceiving the judges, and perpetrating a fraud on the court. This is what's wrong with secret star chambers. And it's got to stop. It's got to be corrected in some form or fashion because the abuse of power now is rampant. And this is what happens.
Well, and the concern is then when you author, when they actually put together that document, if they don't explicitly say or tell the judge that the Clinton campaign is funding this,
right,
you have to use a decoder ring to try to figure out. And then on top of that, for Judicial Watch to find out that there was no hearing. Tell me about Andrew Weissmann. Why is this so important? With Catherine Herridge's reporting, why is Weissmann so important in what Bruce Ohr was doing and informing him along the way?
Bruce Ohr has now implicated the lead lawyer in Robert Mueller's special counsel team. He was in on the Russia hoax that was framing Donald Trump for doing things that Trump never did. So Weissmann knew that Christopher Steele, who composed the phony dossier, was not credible. They knew that the document was completely specious. It was uncorroborated, unverified. And they knew that Steele had been fired for lying. And yet the FBI and the Department of Justice and that guy on your screen apparently didn't care. They used it nevertheless to pursue this phony, fabricated investigation of Donald Trump and to wiretap an American citizen without proper evidence. So this now ruins the integrity and the credibility of Robert Mueller's special counsel. Weissmann should be fired. And the special counsel himself should say, we apologize, we are terminating our special counsel probe because all of it has been tainted and corrupted by Weissmann.
Yeah, they're going to have a real difficult time, if not impossible, to get it through the courts. Tom, where does Judicial Watch go next? What other things do you have brewing that the court will need to rule on, and what are you pressing for?
Well, we were just told there were 1,600 pages of Bruce Ohr documents. They're going to take 6 months or so they want to turn them over. We've sued for Andrew Weissmann's text messages. We're getting the stone wall on there. We've already shown that Weissmann sent an email to Sally Yates praising her lawless thwarting of President Trump's travel ban order back in the beginning of the administration. Now they don't want to turn over any text messages that mention Clinton or Trump. He's pro-Clinton. He attended Clinton's party on the election night. It wasn't much of a party, it turned
I kind of
out.
wish that I was there at that party, by the way. I think that would have been kind of fun, but go ahead, sorry.
Well, now they're hiding his text messages from us. Why are they hiding his text messages from us? So we're asking for all these questions, and you open the hour with talking about the president saying he may have to get involved. The easiest way for him to get involved is to order the Justice Department and the FBI to quickly release these records, declassify the rest of those FISA applications that the court didn't hold hearings on so we can figure out what's in them, because they're classified to cover up corruption, not because of national security issues, and get the truth out. That's the best way to combat the deep state at this point.
Well, and look, they're not only turning them over to the public, which is paying the bills, and that's the government works for is the public, and you're at the tip of the spear on that. But they're also holding them back from Congress. People like John Radcliffe and Trey Gowdy and Devin Nunes, who have security clearances, so they have no excuse there. But they continue to hold those back. Of course, Greg, though, one of the things that's concerning about this is not just Bruce Ohr, but his wife.
Right.
Nellie. So where does it go next with Nellie?
Well, she'll be questioned because it's important. Laws appear to have been broken here. Look, he omitted in his filings of the Department of Justice that his wife was getting paid for composing the dossier that he was peddling. Now, that is not only filing a false government report, which is a crime, but it's also the bribery and gratuity statute and the honest services fraud. This is why he's now squealing on people like Andrew Weissmann. And having Weissmann heading up this, that's like a detective who frames a suspect, then appoints himself to investigate the crimes for which he has framed the suspect. Andrew Weissmann is leading the investigation into Donald Trump, and yet it was Weissmann who was involved in framing Donald Trump.
Oh, and by the way, we'll take the number 4 person at the Department of Justice and his wife, who happens to work for this little organization. Well, then they can have some communication. So, gentlemen,
quickly, Jason, the dossier was used by Mueller. That fourth renewal was signed during Mueller's reign. Mueller's responsible for the use of the dossier just as much as these others.
Well, and that's where you start to get into Rod Rosenstein, too, who's got autographs on some of this stuff, and the memo he authored in firing of Director Comey. It's so incestuous that it needs to continue to be exposed. Thanks for your great work, both of you. We really do appreciate it. This week, Senator Lindsey Graham weighed in on the blatant deep state abuse of power. Watch this.
Word of caution to the public. A lot of people have tried to convict President Trump. Don't be so fast. I've seen no evidence of collusion after 2 years. Mueller's looking at it. We'll see what he says. Plenty of corruption in the Department of Justice and the FBI. Should be stunning. Not one Democrat seems to care. Reverse the roles.
What corruption? What do you mean?
Well, okay, just imagine if the Republican Party had hired a foreign agent to go to Russia to get dirt on Hillary Clinton, and they used it to get a warrant and never told the court about it. It'd be front page story everywhere. That's pretty corrupt when the two FBI agent and the U.S. attorney, the DOJ lawyer, it's our job to stop Trump. Can you imagine what would happen if it's our job to stop Clinton?
He's absolutely right. And on Wednesday, Congressman Jim Jordan had this to say.
Why did Glenn Simpson and Christopher Steele pick Bruce Orr in the first place? Why'd they select his wife to come work for Fusion? They had a direct access. Chris Steele had direct access to the FBI. He was handing them parts of the dossier. Why did they also want to run it through Bruce Orr at the Justice Department?
Good question.
It seems to me to create weight and credibility behind a document that was completely false. If you can now go tell the press and tell other people, oh, a senior Department of Justice official is also talking about the dossier and also passing it on to the FBI, it gives it weight when in fact it was completely a uncredible, unverified document and a bunch of garbage.
Yeah.
Well said by Mr. Jordan there. Joining us now with reaction is former Arkansas governor and Fox News contributor Mike Huckabee. Governor, thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Those are some pretty strong words from Lindsey Graham, and he's right. When he talks about the Democrats are nowhere on this issue. How do Democrats justify this? And when the tables are turned, what is it that they will ultimately end up saying?
This is so stunning, and there are 3 C's to describe it: corruption, conspiracy, and cover-up. And that's what we're dealing with. What makes this so discomforting is that while the press should care and they should be exposing this because sunlight is the best disinfectant when you have something that is horribly diseased, but there's no sunshine on this other than from people like Catherine Herridge and Sarah Carter, people like Greg Jarrett. Otherwise, we would never know these things. But the other part of this is that at the highest levels of the FBI and the Department of Justice, there was an intentional effort to really stage what is no less than a coup d'etat against the elected president, and they were using taxpayer dollars to do it. And these are people with government jobs, and they're supposed to be upholding the law, and we ought to see a bunch of people frog-marched across federal property under arrest for what they have done. It is just unbelievable that this level of corruption exists among this many people at the top.
And somehow, some way, this special is about the Trump effect. I can see them only trying to do this against Donald Trump because he is a disruptive president. He is unconventional, and he did something that he wasn't supposed to do, and that is beat Hillary Clinton to become the next president of the United States. But with all that in place, what is Donald Trump to do now? What should the president be doing?
He's got to have an attorney general who, if they cannot personally task someone in Washington to root out the corruption, then go out to the Justice Department in field offices and bring a team together who will thoroughly investigate and do it fearlessly. Empower Congress, force the FBI and the Justice Department to give every one of those documents unredacted to the oversight committees. The more lights that get turned on, the better, because we're not dealing with something that is political here, Congressman, and I hope a lot of Americans stop and realize that, you can have a lot of political opinions. You like Donald Trump, you don't like him. Here's what this is about. This is whether or not we preserve our system of government where we elect people, we empower them, and whether we can trust law enforcement. If we have this kind of corruption in our law enforcement agencies, then we have something that truly does take us to the end of our republic. That's why it matters, and it really does matter that much. When people have the power to take your liberty away, which law enforcement does, they can put you in jail, they can ruin your life, If those people become corrupt, then your whole system utterly breaks down. And I think we're on the verge of that right now.
Well, you know, we used to have Democrats that would lead the charge on this. That was their accusation against law enforcement, but they are deadly silent to that. And it's hard not to think that there's some complicity between the media and the Democrat machine because they are silent on it. What do you say to Democrats who actually want to be honest brokers?
Well, they need to step up and be honest brokers. They could be truly national treasures and heroes, not because they go out and hurt Democrats. Look, I don't want to hurt the Democrats. I want to help our system. I want there to be a judicial system that whether you're the poorest guy and totally unconnected politically or whether you're the most powerful person on earth, that justice will be applied to you exactly the same way. That clearly is not happening now, Congressman, and without it, we've all become cynics toward our own government, and we can't afford to have that kind of environment in a constitutional republic. It just destroys it.
You're absolutely right, Governor. Justice is supposed to be blindfolded, no matter who is going there. And my grandfather was a career FBI agent, and I got to tell you, the integrity of that department and agency, it's got to be restored. We bank on it too much. Governor, thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate it. Up next on this special edition of Hannity, the Trump Effect, Doug Schoen, Kayleigh McEnany, and Tammy Bruce to tackle the upcoming midterms. Stay with us. Welcome back to this special edition of Hannity, the Trump Effect. At his Indiana rally last night, President Trump slammed the Democratic Party for obstruction and lack of productive ideas. Take a look.
Today's Democrat Party is held hostage by left-wing haters, angry mobs, deep state radicals, establishment cronies, and their fake news allies. The Democrats, they call themselves the resistance. That's what they're good at. Resisting and obstructing. They are obstructionists. Every day they are resisting the will of the American people and trying to undermine the verdict of our democracy delivered so strongly in 2016 like never before delivered. The most remarkable thing about the modern Democrat Party is how truly undemocratic they really have become, right? The so-called resistance is mad because their ideas have been rejected by the American people. And we're getting rid of those bad ideas one by one so fast. And it is driving them crazy.
Now, with just 68 days until the midterms, many Democrats are taking a hard left turn. That was on full display during the New York gubernatorial debate this week, where in a display of anti-Trump one-upsmanship, Governor Andrew Cuomo called ICE, quote, a bunch of thugs. Take a look.
New York State is the state that is suing Donald Trump for ripping babies from the arms of their mother. New York State is the state that says we will not cooperate with ICE. They're a bunch of thugs. He politicized ICE. They're a bunch of thugs. We said we will sue them.
Joining me now with reaction, Fox News contributor and former Clinton pollster Doug Schoen, Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce, and RNC spokesperson Kayleigh McEnany. Thank you, all three of you, for joining us. Doug, is the Democratic Party, is the future of the Democratic Party to embrace socialism and try to go after law enforcement by calling them thugs? Is that the Democratic Party of today?
I sure hope not, and it's one strand, Jason, in the Democratic Party, but fortunately it hasn't taken over. And my advice to my fellow Democrats is stay in the center, stay positive, and stay constructive. We have an 8-point lead in the generic vote. The president is at a record low disapproval in the Washington Post poll. And if we stay centrist like people like Connor Lamb, we will win a big victory in November.
Kayleigh, how do you see the Democrats playing it out? Because I see them embracing socialism, and I see them pushing for the abolishment of ICE and this scorched earth resistance movement.
Yeah, Jason, that's exactly right. They have become radical. They are embracing socialism. Look at what happened last Tuesday here in Florida. Andrew Gillum won. He's calling for abolishing ICE. He literally stood on a debate stage next to Bernie Sanders and called for a revolution. We don't want a revolution here in Florida, but nevertheless, that's what he's calling for. Out in Arizona, the guy who won, a guy named David Garcia, he won the gubernatorial primary. He doesn't just want to abolish ICE. He said, let's get rid of the southern border in Arizona. So these are crazy fringe ideas that are winning all across the country. Carrie Eastman in Nebraska, Ocasio-Cortez, Cuomo saying America was never great. They're taking over the Democratic Party. It's very scary, it's very frightening, and it certainly will not win on a national stage.
And Tammy, who's sitting here with me in studio in New York, how do you see the Democrats playing? Because I see them going further to the left.
Well, look, they do have a platform. Ban straws, boycott In-N-Out Burger, coddle MS-13. Right? Abolish ICE, demonize the police. So they have a platform. It's clear. I wish they would listen to Doug Schoen, because I want a really good opposition party that is loyal and that cares about the country. But you're not seeing that manifest right now, and that's because there's no leadership with the Democratic Party. If they can continue this, it is something Americans will reject. We've always rejected it. We also happen to be in a time where Americans, within a very short period of time, have seen what even the centrist Democrat gives you via Barack Obama from just a couple years ago compared to what Donald Trump has done. A world of difference. It is a shocking reformation that Americans would not have expected, because we were told it was the new normal. And yet now everything has changed. And for the first time we see, 85% of working Americans see the future is brighter and something that is waiting for them, and that is good. This is remarkable. It is due to policies. It is not an accident, and the president needs to reinforce that all the time.
So, Doug, all I hear is the Democrats just demonizing the president. It's a scorched earth. It's resistance movement. It's no matter what the president says. And so I can't even name a platform position that the Democrats believe in other than those things.
Well, I think you're right. I think it's a fair critique that the Democrats do not have an alternative agenda. I'm one of those who believes we need, as you and I have discussed, comprehensive immigration policy, a compromise to get health care done, more help for workers who are lagging behind in pay. And I think Tammy is exactly right. We need a strong, loyal opposition. My sense is if the Democrats do that, and add to that, Jason, getting rid of Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic leadership, we will be not only a stronger party, but we will have at least one, if not
but that's
two
not gonna
houses
happen.
of
That's not going to
Congress.
happen.
Well, no, I think it could, Jason. At least one.
It could if Republicans stay in control of the House. You can sit on the backbench and be, the minority leader. But if the Democrats take the House, that's what they're planning to do. Kayleigh, what is the message that Republicans are using to win in the midterms?
Well, it's really simple. Because of President Trump, your life is better off. That poll that Tammy cited is spot on. When you have 85% of blue-collar workers saying their life is better because of this president, because of his policies, the economy is soaring, wages going up at the fastest pace they have in a decade, 4.2% GDP. President Trump's winning for the American worker, and the Republican Party is now the party of blue-collar workers. And to Doug's point, I would point out there is a mold for Democrats winning. It is Connor Lamb. What did Connor Lamb do? He actively said, I am not opposing Donald Trump, but I am opposing my leader, Nancy Pelosi.
That's right.
So the key for Democrats to win is support Trump, reject Nancy Pelosi. That is the formula.
Let me remind you, Connor Lamb did not have opposition in that primary, so he did not have to face somebody from the left. He was able to situate himself without confronting what the Democrats are dealing with. That is not the case for everyone else that's out there.
Okay, now she's right about the confrontation from the far left. I actually want to play a clip. This is Andrew Cuomo, the governor of a state as big as New York, going up against his opponent here, Cynthia Nixon. Let's play this clip, and Tammy, I'd like you to react to it.
Sure.
My opponent lives in the world of fiction. I live in the world of fact. Let's just do a few facts, okay? The subway system is owned by New York City. The subway
NTA has
system.
been controlled by the state since 1965.
Can you stop interrupting? Can you stop interrupting?
Can you stop lying?
Yeah. As soon as you do.
Oh, well, there you go.
Did he really just say that?
Look, see, that's what gives you an example of what can happen when you really aren't situated in anything that you can believe in. He just effectively admitted that he's a liar, that he'll stop lying when she stops lying. That's what the Democrats get. This is what happens in a state like California and New York when there's no real opposition, is that suddenly, and this is the problem the Democrats have, and then everything falls apart. I don't want that to happen to the Republicans. There has to be a real centered position about changing this country and doing it strategically with the president's leadership, getting her back on her feet.
I got to go real quickly here, but I want to get Doug and Kaylee to give one more thought on the Abolish ICE movement. You're in Arizona, I believe, tonight. I mean, I've never seen
in Arizona.
I've never seen a party prevail that wants to dismantle and demonize law enforcement.
I can't understand it. I would be happy to have Connor Lamb as our speaker, and I would be happy to do a reform of ICE, but we need the southern border, and we need strong border control. Period.
And I say that as the minority of the minority, Doug. Kaylee, this is the message that Democrats...
I think I'm right, and I think I stand for reasonable policies.
I think that is the right answer, but unfortunately, that's the position of the Republicans, not the Democrats, right, Kaylee?
No, it's a good right-thinking Democrats feel that way.
Democrats are out there saying abolish ICE is not a part of our platform. Make no mistake, they are telling a falsehood. When you have a resolution in support of ICE on the House floor, 90% of Democrats voted against it or voted present. This is the mainstream position of the Democratic Party. Abolish law enforcement. It's a losing argument.
It'll be interesting. The midterms are coming up at one of the most important elections of our lifetime, as Sean Hannity likes to say. Thank you all for being here with us tonight. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Straight ahead, I'll be tackling the worst of CNN's botched reporting with Gina Loudon, Deneen Borelli, and Madison Gessiotto. Coming up, the special edition of Hannity, The Trump Effect continues. Welcome back to this special edition of Hannity, The Trump Effect. During his raucous rally last night, President Trump had some tough words for the media. Take a look.
Look how many cameras you have back there. It's just great, like the Academy Awards. Look at it. They can't get enough. But when I start screaming fake news, you see those red lights go off for a little while. You know, excuse me, we have technical difficulties. Okay, then they go back. Right? Look at that. You know, in the studio, you hear they go, listen, he's about ready to go. Look, ladies and gentlemen, we have technical difficulties. We'll be back in just about... Then it goes back. Okay, we're back. Here we go. Keep going. Oh, what they have to put up with. You know, it's not that easy for them either. It's tough to have a network where you're calling them fake news and they're supposed to be proud. That just shows when you get good ratings, you can say anything, right? That's what happens. Get good ratings. The failing New York Times, which, by the way, if I wasn't here, they would be out of business. The Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN.
Vintage Trump right there. In the wake of CNN's botched reporting about the 2016 Trump Tower meeting, two obvious tools of mainstream media bias have emerged. Bias of obsession and the bias of omission. Most recently, the media's bias of obsession was out in full force with their over-the-top impeachment preoccupation. Watch this.
Given the events of today, the likelihood of impeachment, I'm not saying it's high necessarily, but it certainly went up.
Impeachment.
Impeached.
Impeachment. Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
The president is clearly guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors. He should resign his office or be impeached.
Today, the Trump presidency took a giant step toward impeachment.
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 Impeachment implications are now in the air.
Impeachment.
Impeachment. If it is a crime, it certainly is an impeachable offense.
Impeach Trump.
Impeachment.
Impeachment is a word in play here in Washington today. The impeachment.
Impeachment here.
Impeachment.
Should the president be impeached?
Impeachment.
There are Democrats who say there's now more than enough to impeach.
Is itself an impeachable offense.
Consider something as serious as impeachment.
Impeachment.
The impeachment process.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
The president will be removed from office after an impeachment trial.
On the impeachment issue,
Talk about impeachment.
Want to talk about impeachment.
impeachment right now.
Do not talk about impeachment.
Wow. Meanwhile, regarding their bias of omission, the Media Research Center points out that networks spent 39 minutes hyping the dubious CNN story, but then ignored its downfall on air. Joining me now, author of Mad Politics, Keeping Your Sanity in a World Gone Crazy, and member of the Donald J. Trump for President 2020 Media Advisory Board, Gina Loudon, Fox News contributor Deneen Borelli, and attorney and Trump Advisory Board member Madison Gestiato. Thank you, all of you, for joining us here. Impeachment, I mean, they cannot get enough of it. And Dr. Loudon, I'll go to you first. What's your take on that?
Well, yes, in this climate of mad politics, perhaps we need a new definition of insanity that goes something like this. Insanity is doing the same thing you did in 2016 and expecting a different outcome. Apparently, they don't understand that just hating Trump is not a party platform. They're not going to win on it, and they need to find something to replace that bizarre thought that has only succeeded really in dividing a nation and polarizing us in ways that media has never done before. And I would personally love to see the media help us come together by presenting both sides of issues in a fair and balanced way and letting audiences decide.
Now, Deneen, you've been crisscrossing the country. I've seen you out in some other states talking and addressing other audiences. What are you hearing people saying? Do you get addressed with impeachment questions, or is this just something that's found on these East Coast liberal media elites?
I think people are just really amazed at the fact that the mainstream media has gone to such lengths to just really flat out lie to Americans. I mean, it's enough for me to keep up with what's going on. I'm sure you guys are having a crazy time as well. But it's great that President Trump is calling out the liberal mainstream media, and the crowd loves it when he brings it up. And people are watching. They know. And it's so hard to determine what is true and what is not. And in a lot of cases, when they do flat out lie, they don't come out and try to correct what they've said to try to address what the real facts or issues are. They have an agenda. The agenda-driven media has an agenda to discredit and to demonize President Trump, his administration, and this is what we're seeing on a daily basis.
Madison, how do you see this? I mean, you're watching the media. Does it seem fair and balanced to you?
One word, delusional. When it comes down to it, we have a biased mainstream media, and they will stop at nothing from destroying our president. Fake news, botched and misreported stories over and over again. And of course, all of this coupled with a complete lack of recognition for his successes and his accomplishments. This is the reality of the mainstream media right now. It's un-American, it's unethical, and frankly, the people I talk to across this country are sick of it.
Now, Gina, the media has been pounding on impeachment. They have this Trump fascination, anything, they just kind of blow it up. But is America buying that? I mean, I don't see anything that the Democrats are talking about actually breaking through. I don't see any leadership from the Democratic Party, and I certainly don't hear anything about their platform.
Right. Well, the establishment media has completely evaded the heartland of America, and they really believe that the things they hear at their stuffy cocktail parties are what the middle of America is thinking, but it's not. And I don't understand how they can look at the actual numbers, record low unemployment of black people, record low unemployment of Hispanics, record low unemployment of women, popularity among minorities doubling since this president was elected. What do they think those people are going to do? Do they really think they're going to continue to swallow the lies that the establishment media wants to put out? Of course not. And not only will they not continue to believe it, Congressman, they're going to be adamant in their defense against it. So there's a Trump train that's stronger than ever because of what the establishment media has created.
Now, Deneen, there's unbelievable progress on not only the foreign affairs, but domestically. Jobs, the economy, jobs again, the unemployment. I mean, the numbers are just absolutely stunning, but I don't see the media talking about those at all. Well, if you're the average person in the United States and you're not watching, Fox and some others, the Wall Street Journal, and reading about this, how are they even supposed to get a glimpse of what's happening?
Yeah, it is off the rails, and the media is still mad at the fact that the liberal media is still mad at the fact that President Trump is President Trump. And so they don't want to talk about his accomplishments. They don't want to talk about our great economy, record low unemployment, all of the things that the other panelists have mentioned, how well the administration is doing. And again, this election was about jobs and the economy. President Trump looking out for the forgotten men and women. He kept his promise. And that's what we're seeing, but the media, of course, does not want to report it because they have a different agenda.
Now, Madison, I see the Democrats embracing the resistance movement, a scorched earth, just everything is bad. How do you see it? What do the Democrats really stand for these days?
They don't stand for much of anything, and that's exactly why they're losing elections. They'll continue to lose when it comes to midterms in November. They go around talking about, oh, we're going to see a blue wave. No, we're going to see a red wave as a result of the fact that they aren't standing for anything. There's no leadership in the Democratic Party, and it's not what people want to see. People want to hear what these candidates can do for them, not how much they dislike Trump. It's really sad to see that it's like that. And when it comes to CNN and their botched reporting on this, they're continuing to cover this, thinking it's going to help their agenda, which I said before is to destroy the president. It's not helping. The president's more successful than ever, continuing to accomplish everything he said he would and everything they said back in 2016 that he could not do.
Well, I think an American people see through it, and I appreciate all three of you joining us on this beautiful Friday night. So thank you again.
Good to be with you.
Thank you.
Up next on this special edition of Hannity, the Trump Effect, Noel Nickpour, Congressman Matt Gaetz, and David Webb weigh in on the booming economy under President Trump. Stay with us. Welcome back to this special edition of Hannity, the Trump Effect. Since he took office, one of President Trump's greatest achievements is the economic boom under this administration. President Trump talked about the economy during his rally in Indiana last night. Watch this.
This is a truly amazing period of time. We have the best economy in the history of our country. Factories are reopening. Jobs are pouring back into the United States. Consumer confidence in our country is at an 18-year high. Isn't that beautiful? Big thing. And a brand new poll just shows that 85% of blue-collar workers, I love blue-collar workers, I'd actually like them better than white-collar workers, but probably I won't say it too loud. I love our blue-collar workers, and so do our white-collar workers. But our blue-collar workers believe their lives are headed in the right direction, and the poll numbers are massive. Thanks to Republican leadership, our economy is booming like never before. It's never been like this. Economic growth last quarter hit a number that nobody thought possible. This number was 1, less than 1, and going down to negative territory. We've created nearly 4 million new jobs since the election and lifted almost 4 million Americans off food stamps.
Joining me now with reaction is Republican strategist Noel Nickpour, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, and Sirius XM Patriot Radio host David Webb, who's joining me in the studio here in New York. Thank you all for being here. Congressman, you're good at talking about the economy, and there are some others that are good about it, but the Republicans are usually fairly pathetic about talking not just numbers and statistics, but how it relates to individuals. Why are the Republicans so pathetic in telling a message that is so spectacular?
Well, we've got a great story to tell. The Trump economy is growing faster than Anthony Weiner deletes his browser history, and it's no accident. We've got taxes cut. We've got investment that's growing. When you've got more investment, you actually need workers. And we got more people working, fewer people on unemployment, and people are happy in their job. Those are kitchen table issues that will be at the forefront of the midterm elections, and we have to pose the question, Jason, do we want resistance or results? President Trump's delivering results, and only a Republican Congress will stand with him.
Noel, is that resonating? Is that message getting through? Or what did the Democrats do to thwart that message?
That's the point. When you've got President Trump saying 4 million jobs since he took office, what is the message that they're running on? I mean, we are enjoying a high market. Consumer spending is through the roof. And look at what people are doing. It just shows and it reinforces that the Republican brand, it works. Look at the economic side of the Republican platform, and it works. And he's living proof that these policies are working, and it's taken the wind out of the sail for the Democrats' message. What are they running on?
Now, David, who's joining me here in studio, most of the polling shows that the tax cuts aren't actually resonating. People don't know that the positive nature of those. Why is that? And why, again, on the communication side, are Republicans struggling with this?
Well, separate the polling from the reality. And most people in midterms, as you know, will vote on their kitchen table issues. Republicans are good at crunching the numbers, but they're terrible at translating that at times to the kitchen table issues. When you look at where we are today, you look at Labor Day weekend, big sale weekend, you've got consumer earnings are up, confidence is up, people are spending. Now, they need to focus on savings. That's the other side of the story. Republicans need to go to people and talk to them about what this means to them at a very kitchen table level. Don't just talk about the jobs numbers. Don't just talk about the Fed rates. Don't just talk about GDP growth, but bring that down to what it means. You're all invested in the market somehow. You're buying products that are in the markets. What do they cost? What are your goods and services? Are you able to afford the more basic things for your family? Bring that to that level. Don't just talk about the high level numbers.
Now, Congressman, not everybody's going to go to a Trump rally and hear his message and the passion and the unique way that he says it. So what is the message that Republicans need in these last days leading up to the midterms to make them successful?
Well, we continue to see voters focused on Social Security, Jason, and one thing that we've got to do a better job telling the American people is that as a consequence of a growing economy and tax cuts, Social Security is actually stronger today than it ever was under Democrats, because we've got the opportunity to have more revenue in the government, not from more taxes and high taxes, by having more taxpayers. So by attracting more people, by exciting people to invest and take risk in an economy that's growing, we can take care of the most vulnerable, and I think that'll help us win a lot of swing voters that want to see America succeed and maybe don't lean Republican or Democrat.
Now, Noel, if the president is able to pull off these trade deals with Mexico and potentially with Canada, what's that going to mean at the midterm?
I think that's going to seal the deal. I think that's going to be great. And you've got to look at some states, you know, we're looking to flip from blue to red. States like Connecticut, where the #1 issue is the economy. And people are looking, they want to lower those taxes. They want their state tax eventually eliminated. You've got to look at what this is going to do midterms like you were talking about. And I think when he does, you know, seals the deal with the trade, I think that's going to push it over the edge.
Thank you.
He is unstoppable.
Thank you all. I got to go. Coming up more on this special edition of Hannity after this break. Stay with us.